Inflation comes in officially just a teensy little under what was expected. And next thing you know, stocks and bonds go exploding higher. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Chris Martenson of Peak Prosperity, here with the news that you need, information you can't afford to live without. We got to talk this inflation thing for a bit because, look, here's the official report. They said, hey, good news, core, and we'll get through what core means versus inflation versus what reality actually is. Core CPI, according to the official abusively lying, gaslighting statistics that come out of the government, actually fell 0.2%, and it was estimated to be 0.3%. So difference between 0.2 and 0.3, what is the difference there? Well, I'll tell you what the difference is. Wow, big explosion, stocks up, and these are bonds up big green here, 30-year bond. Look at that huge green candle to the right there. Same thing for the 10-year note. So stocks and bonds just exploding higher mysteriously. European stocks very excited by the lack of inflation in the U.S. and apparent lack of inflation. Also, German DAX exploding higher. The Nikkei, guess what? All the so-called markets very, very happy with this news. It's a Goldilocks number. Of course, you can believe it about as much as you could believe a psychopathic liar. Listen, I cover this all the time in the crash course in depth, that the way our official inflation statistics are measured, it's rubbish. Complete rubbish. They use all these statistical tricks. They use hedonics, which just means for the pleasure of. You're supposed to get more pleasure out of healthcare today than you did last year. That's why it's cheaper. Substitution. Hey, beef is expensive. That's okay. We're eating crickets this week. And also weightings. They don't weight the basket. Like, you might spend 30% of your household budget on rent, and the government thinks you spend half that amount. And so that's what they do. They play all these tricks to make it look better than it is. Listen, we are Gaslight Nation. That's probably the best articulation of it at this point in time. So, but let's look at this in a little bit more detail. This actually, this is from Zero Hedge over on Twitter, and it's kind of a bizarre thing that they're doing here now. So the overall inflation is the sum of these two numbers right here, one above the line, one below the line. So they're saying that energy is dragging this whole thing down. That's what that bluish color is right there. That's energy. And then dragging it up a little bit is core services. So year over year, CPI on a month over month basis, pretty flat, but on a year over year basis, you can see that it's mostly services dragging up your expenses higher, according to the official statistics, whereas some things are dragging it down a little bit here again. And these are called core services on this one. What is core? And then worse than that, what is something called supercore? Supercore is just the way that these people get to lie to themselves super more. It's just unbelievable what they do. Supercore, I guess, would be kind of like life without eating or driving anywhere or going anywhere or doing anything. It'd be life without life. And they say if you can avoid eating or being warm or comfortable or having any experiences or anything like that, your supercore inflation experience was actually negative last month. It went backwards. That's awesome. But that's not how any of us actually experience this, of course, right? Because this is what we're experiencing here from EJ and Tony, also on Twitter. You can see that this is benchmarked in cost of goods, right? So that's what this is. It's CPU, rent of shelter. And look at this rent. Look at rent. Rent just skyrocketing higher. And they say that, oh, well, it hasn't skyrocketed up as high as it did recently. So therefore, the message you receive is that inflation is coming down, which it's not. Inflation is still up 3.3% year over year. Costs are still vastly higher than when Biden first took office. And you can see here that rent is now up 21.6% since January of 21. Hard to say for a down payment on a home when your rent is rising almost 10x your income. And by the way, if that inflation went to zero, no more inflation, it's still up 21% over the last 3, now closing on 4 years. So that's pretty intense kind of inflation. That's what we've been experiencing. By the way, inflation is going to continue. It absolutely will. And the reason it's going to continue is because of what's going on over in the oil space. And that's what I'm going to continue on with my subscribers. We have to talk about this, that the IEA recently came out and said, oh, there's this thing, peak oil demand is just around the corner. We're about to run into just an absolute surplus of oil. I think they're absolutely wrong. And of course, I'm going to take my subscribers all the way through that back at Peak Prosperity. So if you like knowing what's going on in the world, in particular, you want to track things like reality, then please come by and consider being a subscriber at Peak Prosperity. For now, I'm going to hike it back there, and we're going to talk about peak oil demand. Real or fiction? Till next time. Bye-bye.